When the Reaper's assistant arrived at my house asking who Victoria Wynn was, my stomach dropped. Victoria Wynn was my mom, but the Reaper said anyone he led away tonight would die. I suddenly remembered how I accidentally burned my little sister earlier today, and how Mom cried until her voice broke. What did I ever do wrong in life to give birth to someone as useless as you? She shouted. Your sister is such a sweet girl, and we already owe her so much. How could you still hurt her? My dad's eyes went red, and for the first time ever, he didn't rush over to hug me. I tried to explain, I only wanted to do her chores for her. I didn't mean to hurt her, but the more anxious I became, the more my words came out as broken babbling. Mom looked even more exhausted, staring at me as she whispered, Lily Wynn, sometimes I wish I'd never given birth to you. I felt horrible. Today was Mom's birthday, and she didn't even get to taste her cake before rushing my sister to the ER. So go ahead, punish me. Let me grant my mom's birthday wish. I pulled out the handmade card I'd hidden away for weeks. Then I stood tall and said loudly to the Reaper's assistant, I'm her. I'm the mother. No, I'm Victoria Wynn. Wait. I suddenly slipped out of the Reaper's assistant's grasp and climbed onto my bed, pulling the blanket over myself. I tucked the edges tight, just like Mom did every night. I hugged the birthday card I had spent so long making, pressing it tight against my chest. Then I reached out my hand and, copying Mom, gently patted the top of my own head. Good girl, Lily. Go to sleep. Mr. Reaper, you can take me now. Mom, happy birthday. I hope you're happy every single day. I won't make you angry anymore. Only now did I understand. When everyone stops talking to you, the whole house becomes terrifyingly quiet. As if the entire world has narrowed to just you. I waited and waited, until I finally opened my eyes. I was no longer on my soft bed. Instead, I was inside an enormous hall, surrounded by cold, blinding fog. On a raised throne sat an old man with a long white beard, looking rather intimidating. When he spoke, his voice boomed like thunder. Are you Victoria Wynn? I froze. But according to their book of life and death, Victoria Wynn is 35. My heart lurched. They must not find out I'm not my mom. Panicking, I scrubbed my hands roughly over my face, hoping to rub out a few wrinkles, then stubbornly declared. Yes, that's me, I'm 35. I'm just short, so I look young. The second the words came out, I regretted it. I lied. Mom always said lying was the ugliest habit a person could have. The truth was, I was only 15, and Mom wasn't young at all. Ever since she had me, she barely had time to visit a spa, or even put on her nice-smelling lotion. The old man with the long beard stared at me for a very long time, suspicion filling his eyes. Someone bring the cross-realm mirror, let me see how the human world looks now. A massive mirror was carried in, and the moment it lit up, it showed my house. My parents had brought my little sister home, and they both looked completely exhausted. My chest tightened. My sister, with the arm that wasn't burned, gently tugged Mom's hand and whispered. Mom, Dad. I'm not hurting anymore. Please don't be mad at Lily. She just wanted to help me boil water and accidentally knocked over the kettle. Dad squeezed Mom's hand and guided her toward my bedroom door. Mom's eyes were soft, but full of sadness. She knocked. Lily, today it was my fault. I shouldn't have yelled at you. I'm sorry. My heart fluttered like a feather brushing softly against it. Mom apologized to me. I hadn't been angry at her for a long time anyway. She loves me, and I love her. In my world, Mom could make 10,000 mistakes and I'd still forgive her. How many mistakes has she made? I can't even remember. Erase them all. Mom continued, come out and apologize to your sister, then let's eat dinner together, okay? She turned to Dad and my sister. Don't touch the birthday cake yet. The first slice is for Lily. She still remembered to save the first piece for me. I was so happy I wanted to jump, almost bursting with the urge to run home immediately. The old man with the long white beard suddenly turned his head, his hawk-sharp eyes locking onto me. His thunderous voice echoed through the great hall. Your name is Lily, isn't it? You're not Victoria Wynn, are you? Lily. Lily is just my nickname, I squeaked, panicking so hard my voice flipped into a shrill pitch. My real name is Victoria Wynn. Yes, Victoria Wynn. My heart felt like it was hanging upside down, and inside I was praying desperately. Mom. Dad. Tess, please don't say anything that will expose me. Luckily, in the mirror of the mortal world, after calling my name several times, Mom lost patience. She frowned, her voice turning sharp again. Honestly, she gets more stubborn every day. If she wants to eat, she can eat. If not, then forget it. Dad gently rubbed Mom's back, his voice soft. Come on, sweetheart, she has the mind of a child. Why are you arguing with a child? A brief softness bloomed on Mom's face. But like snow under the sun, it vanished instantly. She looked even more exhausted, her voice dropping low. Yes, she's still a child. But is it fair to treat Tess this way? We adopted Tess so Lily would have a companion. But I never meant for Tess to end up taking care of Lily her entire life. Tess is too considerate. She works hard, studies hard, does chores, never complains, never fights back. Even when she gets hurt, she still protects Lily. Mom's voice tightened with emotion. We owe Tess too much. My nose stung. So this is how terrible I had been. Because of me, my sister had endured so much. And Mom had carried so much grief because of me. I whispered toward the giant mirror, I'm sorry. Dad led Mom to the dining table to cut the birthday cake. He was tired too, but he still forced a cheerful voice. All right then. The first slice isn't for that troublesome kid anymore. Mom and Tess can have it first. I knew Dad was trying to coax me to come out. But I couldn't go back anymore. I stared down at my own shoes and murmured to myself. Yeah, go ahead and eat. Bad kids don't get cake. The grand hall was so quiet I could hear myself breathe. The old man with the long beard sighed. A long, ancient, weary sigh like he carried centuries of helplessness. Are you truly Victoria Wynn? He asked again, this time his voice no longer thunderous. Before I could answer, he looked down at his huge book. It says here that Victoria Wynn has 2 daughters. My heart lurched again. Was I about to be exposed? I bit my lip, struggling inside for a long moment, then finally pointed at my mom and shouted. Yes, her. She's the one I gave birth to. Then I pointed at my sister. And she's the one I adopted. Both of them are my daughters. The moment the words left my mouth, the silent hall exploded into laughter. The figures in black and white robes, everyone waiting in line to enter the hall, all burst out laughing at me. What did I do wrong? What did I say wrong? My face burned hot, and I wanted nothing more than to crawl into a hole. Only when the old man raised his hand did everyone finally stop laughing. His eyes stayed stern, but there was something in them. Something I couldn't read. "Very well," he said. "If that's the case, let us see the life of this Victoria Wynn." The massive mirror rippled like water, flooding with light. The scene inside changed. No longer my home, but a strange place. And a little girl I didn't recognize. I suddenly realized. It was Mom. Mom as a child. She was brilliant. Top of her class every year. The teacher held up her notebooks like precious treasures, showing them off to everyone. Mom knew how to dance too. She wore a beautiful white dress, twirling gracefully under shimmering lights. A much younger Dad sat in the audience, his eyes sparkling like stars as he watched her. The scene looked like a fairy tale illustration. But then I was born. The world inside the mirror dimmed to gray. I was a baby who didn't know how to smile like the others. Couldn't talk, couldn't walk without falling over and over. Mom never wore that white dress again. She stopped working. Afraid a babysitter would mistreat me, she gave up everything to care for me herself. Dad stopped smiling too. He worked himself to exhaustion, trying to earn enough money to buy my medicine and take me to endless appointments. Then the mirror showed me a little older. I toddled toward a group of kids on the playground, wanting to play with them. But they shoved me to the ground and formed a circle around me. They pointed at me and laughed loudly. "Stupid kid, we're not playing with you." My mom said if I hang out with dumb kids, I'll get dumb too. I got scared and burst into tears. Mom ran over and wrapped me tightly in her arms, and I could feel her trembling. That night, Mom cried for a very, very long time. Then Tess was brought home. Mom said she adopted Tess so she could play with me, so I could take care of her. But in reality, Tess was always the one taking care of me. Until today, when I accidentally burned her. The scene in the mirror ended. Then the booming voice filled the hall again. Today marks the end of Victoria Wynn's lifespan. She collapsed from emotional exhaustion and died suddenly. The old man's voice rolled over me like a boulder, crushing my heart. So I was the biggest burden. I was the one who took away Mom's beautiful dress. I was the one who bent her shoulders. I was the one who wore her down until she died. I remembered something from long ago. My grandparents had visited and, the moment they saw me, they got angry. "This child is a curse. Throw her away. Have a healthy grandson instead." Mom and Dad were furious back then, and because of that, I always thought curse was the most vicious insult in the world. But now, gathering all the courage in my life, I looked up at the old man and asked, "So, is my daughter, a curse on my life?" The king of the underworld didn't answer. He just stared at me with eyes that seemed to see through past and future. I suddenly got scared. Maybe I didn't want the answer anymore. I turned away quickly and looked at the giant mirror again. The untouched birthday cake sat beautifully on the table. Dad sighed tiredly, waiting for Lily to come out and eat. But Mom glanced at Tessa's bandaged arm, and with a pouty huff, she cut a huge slice and handed it to Tess. "No need to wait. This year, Tess gets the first piece." Dad paused, then gave a gentle smile. "Yeah, Tess is our sweetheart too. Go ahead, baby, eat. Tessa's eyes reddened with emotion as she threw her arms around both of them. Mom kept repeating softly, Tess is our precious girl too. Outside the mirror, I nodded quickly and whispered, yeah. She's my precious sister too. Without me, Mom, Dad, and Tess will definitely be happier. Then Mom closed her eyes to make a birthday wish. She grumbled at the empty air. My birthday wish is that the little fool won't show up again to make me angry. My eyes stung and my throat tightened. But strangely, I felt a little proud. That was Mom's birthday wish. I granted it. Lily Wynn, was useful after all. A man in black next to me stomped his foot anxiously. Hey, her mom didn't mean that literally. Deep down, what she really wishes for is for Lily to grow healthy, like a normal kid, and live happily. Before I could process that, a loud knocking echoed from the mirror. Dad finally couldn't hold back and pushed open my bedroom door. Seeing me asleep on the bed, he whispered, Lily, today is your mom's birthday. People celebrating a birthday shouldn't stay upset. Come apologize to Mom, okay? I'll help you cheer her up. Of course I would. Making Mom happy is my favorite thing in the world. But I couldn't go back anymore. I didn't answer. I didn't move. Dad frowned slightly in confusion. Lily? He reached out as if to touch me. But then he heard Tess sobbing softly outside. He rushed away to comfort her. I felt a pang of disappointment, but also relief. If they realized I was dead, they would be heartbroken, wouldn't they? Lily Wynn really was horrible. Even dying, I still made everyone sad. Inside the small bedroom, Tess lifted her injured arm, her eyes glossy with tears as she tried to change the bandage herself. That was when I finally saw the huge red burn across her skin, and my heart felt like it was being stabbed with needles. It was all my fault that she hurt so badly. While I was drowning in guilt, the king of the underworld suddenly called my name. One last time, he said, are you certain you are Victoria Wynn? Do you understand? If you say yes again, you will be taken to reincarnate immediately. I nodded frantically like a pecking chicken. Yes, I'm Victoria Wynn. He exhaled a long, ancient sigh. Very well. According to the records, Victoria Wynn's lifespan has ended. Prepare her for immediate reincarnation. He paused, his thunderous tone softening just a little. Before you go, I will grant you one wish. Speak. One wish? I didn't think. I just pointed at Tess in the mirror and blurted out. Make her arms stop hurting. Right now. Please, right now. The entire hall fell into an eerie silence. The Reaper attendants suddenly avoided my eyes. One stared at the floor, another at the ceiling. The king of the underworld didn't say anything. He just flicked his hand. In the mirror, Tess froze mid-sob, her expression filled with confusion. Huh? Why doesn't it hurt anymore? I finally let out a shaky sigh of relief. In the mirror, Dad was carefully applying ointment to Tessa's arm, comforting her in a whisper. Mom had locked herself in the bedroom, rubbing her swollen red eyes. I carved their faces deep into my heart, so deep. So painfully deep. I almost couldn't bear to look away. But I couldn't linger any longer. If they discovered I wasn't Mom, everything would fall apart. I reached out and grabbed the wrist of the Reaper assistant, desperate. I really am Victoria Wynn. let's go reincarnate. Please hurry. I hope next life I'll be healthy, grow up safely, and get the chance to take care of Mom, Dad, and Tess instead." The Reaper assistant looked at me, then looked helplessly at the king of the underworld, like he was about to cry. He held my hand firmly and we took a few steps. But then he suddenly froze. "Wait, everyone look." In the mirror, Tess was tiptoeing toward my bed, carrying my slice of birthday cake. Her voice was soft as a breeze. "Lily, please don't be mad anymore, okay? Mom didn't mean to snap at you. We all love you so much. Look, I brought you your cake. If you're too shy to apologize to Mom, I can sneak you a bite first, okay?" She reached out and poked my cheek. When she felt how cold it was, she instinctively rubbed my face, trying to warm it. But in the next second, she froze. She stared at me for a long moment, then her trembling hand reached beneath my nose. No breath. Her shaking hand moved to my chest. No heartbeat. She was frozen for 3 long seconds. Then a broken, soul-shattering scream ripped from her throat. Lily? Dad? Mom? Lily, she's not breathing." Tess ran out of the room in blind panic, accidentally dropping the birthday card I had been clutching. It fell open on the floor, revealing the ugly, childish drawing of our family inside. At the same time, the birthday song I recorded for Mom began to play cheerfully from the card speaker. "Happy birthday, Mommy. I hope you're happy every day." Tessa's voice cracked with sobs as she sprinted down the hallway. "Dad! Mom! Lily's not breathing." I stood frozen in front of the mirror, my heart ready to burst from my chest. Almost instantly, a loud crash echoed from the living room. The sound of a chair being shoved violently. Dad stormed into the bedroom like a hurricane. In my memory, Dad was always gentle and quiet. This was the first time I ever saw him that furious. Veins bulged across his forehead as he gripped Tessa's shoulders, his voice raw and frantic. "Tess, what nonsense are you saying? How dare you say something so unlucky? Don't you and your sister dare pull a prank like this on us." I stiffened, my heart twisting painfully. Dad thinks Tess and I are working together to scare him? I'd never do something that awful. I'm not the kind of kid who lies to hurt people. I was about to feel wronged. But then it hit me. I did lie. I sneaked a glance at the king of the underworld and the Reaper attendants. Right. I had lied to them earlier, pretending to be Mom. So Dad wasn't wrong when he said I could scheme too. Mom rushed into the room next, her face even paler than the walls, her lips trembling uncontrollably. When she heard Dad's explanation, she also assumed Tess and I were pulling some prank together, and she finally breathed out in relief. Mom frowned, opening her mouth. And I knew that expression so well. Just a glance, and I knew she was about to scold me again. "Lily Wynn, you can't skip your medication. Lily Wynn, you made a mess out of the whole house again today. Lily Wynn." I'd made her angry so many times. But no matter what, Mom always ended up hugging me and smiling. Because Lily was always her little girl. I twisted my fingers nervously, wanting to see what Mom would say next. "After I die, I won't make her angry anymore. Maybe she'll be happier, right?" Mom did start to scold me, but the moment she saw the birthday card on the floor, heard my silly little recorded song, her eyebrows slowly relaxed. I looked left, looked right, suddenly feeling embarrassed. Oh my gosh, everyone heard me sing. If I knew that, I would have sung properly instead of yelling like a broken whistle. Mom knelt down and picked up the card as if it were something priceless. She gently brushed the dust off with her sleeve. After listening for a moment, she let out a soft laugh. Mom's eyes softened, bit by bit, like snow melting in sunlight. All right, Lily Wynn. Mom's not mad anymore. So you stop being mad too. That singing is terrible, now come eat your cake. But I didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Mom grew a little helpless. Even so, she sat down on the edge of the bed. Okay, still upset? Fine, Mommy's sorry, okay? My tiny little girl with a personality bigger than the sky. If you don't get up, I'll tickle you. Mom lifted her hand playfully, aiming for my side. Behind her, Tess was crying so hard her voice kept breaking, and Dad finally began to realize something was terribly wrong. Mom's warm hand slipped under the freezing blanket and touched my waist. The waist that was already cold and stiff. Mom froze. Lily. She stared at my sleeping face, disbelief shattering her expression. And suddenly she collapsed into a scream so heartrending it shook the mirror. Both her hands grabbed my shoulders as she shook me desperately. Lily, get up. Mommy doesn't want to play anymore. Please stop lying to me, get up. Please get up, Mommy is begging you. It was my fault for not giving you the first slice. I'll buy you a bigger cake, a sweeter cake. Just get up, baby, please. I stared at the mirror, my eyes burning. Mom, stop shaking me. I really am dead. If you keep shaking me, my brain will turn to mush. I wasn't smart to begin with. As if she heard me, Mom suddenly stopped. Victoria. Dad's terrified voice rang through the room. Because just then, Mom closed her eyes and collapsed. Dad lunged forward and barely caught her limp body in time. The birthday card, playing my little song, finally ran out of battery. My voice grew slower and slower, until it warped into a distorted whine and faded completely. I panicked and shoved the Reaper's assistant aside, rushing back to the mirror. I paced back and forth, frantic like an ant dropped onto hot metal. Why did Mom faint? Is she okay? Please let her be okay. Everyone in the underworld seemed to sense my fear. No one urged me to leave. The entire hall went silent, waiting with me. At the hospital, the hallway was cold and echoing. Mom had been rushed into the emergency room. Dad and Tess sat numbly on the bench outside. Tess was truly terrified this time. Curled up small, her eyes swollen red. She didn't dare move closer to Dad. Didn't dare leave either. Dad noticed, and gently patted her back. Only after a long time did he rasp out, voice cracking. Tess, don't be scared. Mom will be okay. She'll be okay. I was worried I'd go insane. My whole soul felt like it was fraying. And then I heard a voice. A familiar voice. Lily. Mom's voice. I turned around, and Mom, Victoria Wynn, was suddenly standing inside the great hall of the underworld, her face twisted in sheer terror. A warmth I knew better than anything else washed over me, a warmth that always made me feel safe, no matter what. Mom! I cried, and like a little bird rushing back to its nest, I dove straight into her arms, clinging to her tightly. I lifted my head, unable to hide the excitement and tiny bit of pride bubbling in my chest. Mom, look! I did so good, right? I actually granted your birthday wish. I disappeared just like you wanted, so now everything will be easier for you, and you can be happy every day. Mom stared at me, frozen, the color draining from her face. Only then did I realize something was terribly, terribly wrong. Wait, this was the underworld. How could Mom be here? My heart jolted so hard it hurt. Before I could react, Mom pulled me down to kneel beside her and burst into desperate sobs, begging the king of the underworld. No, no. Your Majesty, my daughter Lily Wynn is only 15. She's just a child. She still has her entire future ahead of her, how could she possibly be dead? She's simple-minded, she doesn't understand anything. If someone has to die, let it be me. She's still a kid, she has to go home, please, I am begging you, please let her return. As she spoke, Mom grabbed my hand and forced me to bow, her forehead striking the ground again and again. The entire hall fell into an eerie silence, filled only with the sound of her kneeling and her choking cries. I looked at the king of the underworld and saw something complicated flicker through his expression. He finally spoke, his thunder-like voice carrying heavy weight. The Book of Souls clearly states that the lifespan of Victoria Wynn has reached its end. And the soul willingly responding to the summons was indeed Victoria Wynn. It admitted with its own mouth that it is Victoria Wynn. The laws of life and death are absolute, how can mortals bargain with them? Mom went stiff as if struck by lightning. She stared at me, eyes wide, trembling uncontrollably. Then she threw her arms around me as if completely losing her mind. She screamed until her voice broke while shouting at the king of the underworld. No, no, I am Victoria Wynn. I am. It's me. Lily, oh God, what nonsense did you say? Tell His Majesty who you really are. Say it. That day, I spoke out of anger, I didn't mean a word of it. I would forgive you 1,000 times, 10,000 times, I would never want you to die for me. Mom hugged me so tightly it hurt, but I didn't pull away even a little. Instead, a tiny, tiny happiness bloomed in my chest. So Mom didn't hate me after all. So Mom didn't really want me gone. But I couldn't let her cry like this, couldn't let her argue with the king of the underworld because of me, couldn't let her trade her life for mine. I panicked, pulling my head away from her embrace and shouting as loudly as I could. I am Victoria Wynn. It's me. Mom sobbed harder, shaking her head violently. No, I am. Not you. I yelled back through a tightening throat, I am. Mom grew more frantic with each second, while the king of the underworld frowned deeper and deeper. Terror gripped me. If this kept going, Mom might really get dragged into punishment. Right at that moment, I didn't know where my strength came from. But the instant Mom loosened her grip for 1 second, I tore myself free of her arms. Mom stumbled backward in shock. I looked at her one last time, forcing myself to memorize her face completely, every eyelash, every wrinkle of worry, every soft line I loved so much. Then I turned and sprinted straight toward the path of reincarnation the Reaper had opened for me. I didn't hesitate. I jumped in. Lily, no. Mom's scream shattered through the underworld, so painful it felt like it could rip open the sky. Guilt stabbed through me. Sorry, Mom. I still made you sad. Everyone in the entire hall froze. The suddenness of it all left them stunned. The Reaper who brought me here was the first to snap out of it, flailing anxiously. Oh no, she hasn't drunk the memory soup yet. She took her past life memories into reincarnation. Your Majesty, this breaks every rule. What do we do? The king of the underworld stared at the glowing path for a long, heavy moment. Then he looked down at Mom. Mom, who had collapsed on the floor, her soul dimming like half of her spirit had shattered. No one spoke. Only Mom's broken sobs filled the enormous hall. Finally, the king of the underworld lifted his sleeve with a weary wave. Send her back to the living world. Mom's soul snapped back into her body. She jolted awake, her heart pounding so violently her entire body shook. Lily, she screamed, shooting upright, drenched in cold sweat. The underworld was gone. Instead, Dad, Daniel Wynn, and Tess stared at her with terrified eyes. Victoria, thank God, you scared both of us half to death, Dad whispered, voice hoarse. The doctor said you were too agitated, they almost couldn't bring you back. Slowly, Mom's eyes focused again. Mom grabbed Dad's wrist, her voice shaking violently. Where's Lily? Where's my Lily? Where's my baby? Immediately, Dad and Tess both froze, their faces draining of color. Everything that had happened in the underworld came crashing back into Mom's mind like a tidal wave. Her tears fell uncontrollably as her voice trembled. It was real, all of it was real. She's gone, my baby girl is really gone, she died in my place. Dad looked horrified and confused, pain twisting his voice. Victoria, what are you talking about? What do you mean, died in your place? It's Lily. Mom broke down completely, shaking as she sobbed. Tonight, the Reaper came for my soul. And that foolish child, she thought I hated her, she thought disappearing would make me happy. She raised her hand and said she was Victoria Wynn. She offered herself up, she died for me. She died because of the stupid things I said. Mom's words dissolved into incoherent crying as she grabbed fistfuls of her own hair. Dad and Tess stood frozen, unable to move, unable to breathe. The hospital room fell into a suffocating silence. Meanwhile, after I jumped into the path of reincarnation, I didn't reincarnate right away. I landed somewhere warm, soft, wrapped in gentle glowing colors like rainbow mist. A gentle old lady in a green robe caught me as if she had been waiting for me all along. She stroked my head and spoke to me with the softest voice. You're a good child. You've suffered enough. Let Grandma bend the rules for you. In your next life, I'll let you choose what you want to be. She winked playfully, and I couldn't help laughing. I thought for a long time. First of all, I didn't want to be human anymore. Being human was exhausting. If I was born slow again, Mom and Dad and Tess would only suffer more. But if I wasn't slow, I'd have to go to school like my sister, with piles of homework and stress. Images from cartoons and TV shows flashed through my mind. I twisted my thoughts around and suddenly my eyes lit up. I want to be a little bird. This life, Mom and Dad were always scared I'd get hurt, scared I'd get lost, so they never let me go anywhere. Every day I could only watch kids playing outside from the window. On TV, people traveled to so many places, but I couldn't even go to the next town. If I became a bird, I could fly anywhere I wanted, free. The old lady smiled with such warmth that it made my heart feel full. Very well. As you wish. She gently pushed me, and a soft but irresistible force wrapped around me. This time, I truly couldn't turn back. My vision and consciousness blurred, my body dissolving and then reshaping. My feet felt weightless, and peace washed over me like light. I shed every burden. The warm glow swallowed me whole. Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Tess. I'm leaving now. In my next life, I'll be a small, brave, warm little bird. That was the first feeling I had when I opened my eyes. Instinctively, I pecked hard at the shell around me. Crack! Light and fresh air rushed in. I pushed my way out of the egg, wet and tiny, nestled among my fuzzy siblings. Under me was a nest made of mud and straw. Above me was a vast, endless sky. In this new life, I had become a little swallow. I grew quickly, my feathers smooth and glossy black, a white patch on my chest just like the little white flower Mom once sewed onto my childhood bib. When my wings were finally strong enough, my swallow parents nudged me and my siblings toward the edge of the nest to teach us how to fly. The others trembled and clung to the nest. But I jumped first. I wanted to fly. I had to go home. I wanted to see how Mom, Dad, and Tess were doing. The wind lifted me effortlessly. I was a brave, clever little swallow. I learned to fly almost instantly. The roads below slowly became familiar. The bakery from my childhood. The elementary school across from home. The artificial lake. This was the road home. My chest felt like it was on fire with anticipation. I darted toward the house I'd stared at for 15 years. I landed on the window ledge, hooking my tiny claws into the familiar metal frame, the one still dented from when I banged my head on it as a kid. I pressed my beak to the glass, trying to see inside, but the house didn't look like home anymore. The living room was cold and quiet, and Mom sat on the sofa clutching my birthday card. The song I recorded for her was warped beyond recognition, yet she kept replaying it over and over. Lily. Mommy was wrong. I never meant those words. How could I ever not want you? She whispered through tears. Mom, you silly woman. I understand everything now. Dad, Mom, Tess, you all love me. Why can't you let go of the guilt? My little bird body trembled with worry, so I flew off to find Dad. Dad stood on the balcony, his once straight back now slightly hunched. The man who never drank or smoked was now holding both a cigarette and a bottle of whiskey. Tess wiped every table and chair in the house with delicate, trembling movements, as if any sound would shatter the room. She kept glancing at Dad and Mom, then shrinking into herself like she wanted to disappear. She didn't think it was her fault, right? It wasn't her fault. It was mine. Seeing this, my little bird heart twisted painfully. They weren't happy at all. Not even close to what I wished for. Chip. 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 I pecked the window loudly, trying to get their attention. Mom was drowning in grief and didn't hear a thing. Dad looked at me once, then tossed me a pinch of millet before waving dismissively for me to go away. The look in his eyes felt like a knife, distant, numb, unfamiliar. My chest hollowed out in one dizzying moment. They didn't recognize me. To them, I was just an annoying swallow tapping on their window. Chip. Annoyed and heartbroken, I shot off into the sky. For days I circled the house, waiting. Finally Monday arrived. Tess would go to school. Even if Mom and Dad couldn't see me, surely Tess would. I perched high up on a branch and waited until she stepped outside. I was just about to fly to her when I noticed some classmates nearby whispering and snickering. But when they saw her, they fell silent, faces twisting with disdain. "Stay away from her," one muttered. "She's adopted. People say she wanted attention so bad she pushed that slow sister of hers into dying. Total jinx. Total curse." Tessa's head dropped lower and lower, like she wanted to sink into the pavement. Rage exploded inside me, every feather on my body puffing up. They were wrong, horribly wrong. Wynn was the kindest person on earth. I lifted my head toward the sky and released a sharp, echoing call. Sraya. It was the call birds used when asking for reinforcements. Almost instantly, replies echoed from every direction. In this life I had many friends, birds liked me, and the entire flock swooped down like an arrow storm. The bullies screamed and ran in all directions. The alley fell silent. I glided down and landed precisely on Tessa's trembling shoulder. Only then did I see her eyes, red and glistening with tears she refused to let fall. I remembered how, in the past, whenever she had a bad test score or Mom and Dad accidentally hurt her feelings, she would hide somewhere quiet, crying as quietly as possible. Sometimes I found her by accident. I would waddle up to her clumsily, rubbing my head gently against her cheek, staying beside her without saying a word. Just like now, I pressed my soft little head against her face. "Tess, don't be scared. I'm here. I'm your brave little swallow. I will always protect you." Her body stiffened. She slowly turned her head, her eyes filled with shock mixed with a trembling hope she was afraid to believe in. The alley was so silent we could hear only the gentle rustling of wind. I heard my little sister whisper through a trembling voice, "Lily, is that you?" "Chip." I nodded so fast my whole body wobbled. "Chip, chip, 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 chip." That day, the sister who always held everything inside finally burst into tears. She carried me home in her arms. She didn't tell Mom and Dad right away that the little swallow was actually me. Instead, she built a tiny nest for me outside her window and cared for me in secret. And that was when my healing mission began. Every morning I perched on the window frame and sang with my clearest voice, chasing away the heavy gloom in the house. Whenever Mom sat in front of my photo and cried, I'd flutter in, hop around, and pet the old hair clips she used to buy me, anything to distract her. At first she stared at me in confusion. But later, in my little black eyes, she seemed to recognize something. Sometimes she would murmur softly and talk to me as if she knew. When Dad lit a cigarette, I would swoop down, grab it in my beak, toss it into the trash, and chirp angrily at him. At first he just sighed helplessly at me. Then slowly, he really did start smoking less. And soon the balcony had no more empty bottles either. Winter passed, cold and aching. Spring came, warm and gentle. And the suffocating grief in the house began to melt. Whenever they mentioned Lily, Mom's eyes still reddened and Dad still grew quiet, but the hopelessness was gone, replaced by a soft ache and the courage to keep living. As the days grew warmer, a feeling awoke inside me, a pull, a call telling me it was time to fly to wider skies. One bright morning, I stood on the balcony railing, looking longingly at the family I loved. Mom was watering her plants, calm and peaceful. Dad was reading the news, sipping green tea. My sister adjusted her backpack before school. She looked at me and walked over, gently stroking my head. "Lily, you're leaving soon, right?" I nodded and chirped softly from deep in my chest. Mom and Dad heard and came out too. The truth was, ever since the day I returned, they had known who this swallow really was. Go on, Lily, Dad whispered. Thank you for coming back. We'll be okay, Mom said, voice trembling but hopeful. You go be free. Fly as far as you want. I looked at them for a long time, memorizing every face, every detail, carving them into my soul. Then I spread my wings and launched into the sky. The wind rushed past my feathers. The town grew smaller beneath me. I was no longer the Lily Wynn who hid at home and slowed everyone down. I was a brave swallow now. I would soar through storms, see mountains and rivers, and embrace the whole world. Goodbye, my beloved family. Please live happily.
Thanks for listening under the stars. If you want another tale, just whisper next chapter in the comments. Until then, rest easy.